News at 10.
And we start tonight with a developing story happening in Seattle. We are getting a look at the first body camera footage Seattle police have ever released. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marnie Hughes.
And I'm David Rose. They're hoping it leads to finding the people inside a Subaru accused of trying to hit officers Sunday night in the city's East Lake neighborhood. The police officers on scene opened fire on the vehicle. Take a look.
Seattle police! You're on the ground! Get on the ground!
Well, now some are bringing the officers' actions into question. Tim Joyce is breaking down what happened in those tense moments and shows us how people who live in that area are reacting.
What the? Aaron Harold has a strong reaction to the first ever release of body camera video from an officer-involved shooting in Seattle just a block from his house on Sunday night. The videos from several different officers show a driver who ignores police orders to stop, gets in the vehicle, and almost runs down an officer.
I'm now 200% pro police having body cams. If they're shooting guns, we definitely need to have that on camera.
For many, they like what the cameras provide, a raw and unbiased view of what happens. The public can watch an incident unfold from the very beginning as the officer exits the patrol car and then approaches the suspects.
Seattle police! Dude, on the ground!
If you have a camera on you, then it's like, this is what actually happened.
The kind of scrutiny that comes with having every move and word captured on video is for many people something they wouldn't like for themselves.
The data shows it seems to help. I know I'd hate for my job to be monitored 24/7.
Many say they appreciate the transparency of the police department.
It's a dangerous job. I would not want to do it. And I'm glad there's guys that do it. And I think they kind of get picked on a little bit much.
Shots fired.
Going forward, many say they think it will be a game changer with how police conduct themselves and maybe even how people interact with police. In Seattle, I'm Tim Joyce, Q13 News.
Police recovered the Subaru. They have not identified the suspects or said they even know who they are at this point. We also don't know if they are wounded or seriously hurt. They said that there's no indication at this point that anyone was seriously injured despite all the bullets that you saw.
All right, we want to introduce Brandy Cruz now, and you've had a chance to watch this video, and you think what is really at issue is the second volley of gunfire. Why is that?
Yeah, to me, that's the one that I think is going to be the most troubling or concerning for that officers as this moves into an investigation. And, you know, we've shown you the video. The first one even, I think, is in a gray area when it comes to policy, but it's that second volley of fire that I think is going to be most controversial. In fact, I spent most of the night on the phone with some sources within the police department trying to get their read on this. One of them called it problematic, and their first response, a veteran Seattle police officer, after watching this video is, quote, "What the hell was that?" So some shock and surprise by what they saw. This is the video. We have a lot of different angles of this because, as we mentioned, we have body camera footage for the first time, which is really interesting to see. I think this is the most important one because it really shows this first-person perspective of the officer who was almost struck by that vehicle, which is dangerous in and of itself. So you could see why he might, in that scenario, open fire on that car, because you could look at the vehicle as a deadly weapon. The issue is when the vehicle starts to speed away, the fact that two of these officers, as it speeds away, are opening fire on the vehicle. So look, I think that when you see this, I think it's easy for us to sort of react with emotion, right? This is what we think the officers could have done or should have done. They were justified, not justified, but the reality is, plain and simple, that the actions of officers are dictated and have to be dictated by the policies that they're trained on. And there happens to be a pretty dang specific policy for this instance. I want to read that policy for you. It reads in part, firearms shall not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless a person in the vehicle is immediately threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle. The moving vehicle itself shall not presumptively constitute a threat that justifies an officer's use of force. It continues, an officer threatened by an oncoming vehicle shall, if feasible, move out of its path instead of discharging a firearm at it or any of its occupants. So feel how you want to feel about the actions that that officer took, whether you felt like his life was in jeopardy. That policy is pretty specific, saying that an officer should not fire at a vehicle unless, say, this person, as the vehicle was driving away, is holding a gun out the vehicle and shooting at the officers, then per policy, it might be okay for them to open fire. And granted, in this policy, and I think it rightly points out that this isn't a perfect for every situation. It's not going to cover every situation that an officer might encounter, but the policy is pretty clear.
Policy is clear, and I'm checking with other departments because I'm 80% certain, I'm just going to say 80%, that that's not the case in other departments, because I have, my entire career, I've heard officers can defend themselves with deadly force, and a vehicle is a deadly force, and they can use their firearms. And we've had cases in Tacoma and Pierce County, specifically in the last couple of years, just like this. So we're all going to be looking at this from a bunch of different angles, right? But the great thing now is that we actually have video, so we can have these discussions, and we can talk about what the community wants, and community policing can be really part of the community discussion for the viewers, for the public, citizens, and the media.
Yeah, let me clarify here. You know, there are situations, and this policy allows for it, where if an officer felt as if their life was in danger, it would absolutely be appropriate, and they could argue, I felt like I was going to get killed. A vehicle can kill someone as much as a firearm can. That's why I opened fire. And there are two exceptions that this policy allows for. One, if the officer's life or the lives of others were in immediate peril. And again, I don't think it's that first volley of fire that's in question. I think it's as the vehicle is leaving. That officer cannot argue that their life is in immediate peril. The other exception it allows for, if there was a reasonable or apparent means of escape. Again, when the vehicle is driving away, the officer has no need to escape because the vehicle is leaving the scene.
I will counter you with, you can see the brake lights on the vehicle. The officer could say he thought they were going to accelerate in reverse and run over them.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important, always important. I know we're running out of time. Always important to let the investigation run its course, because there are always things that we do not know right away.
Right. Bottom line is we don't even have the suspects in custody to ask them what was going on.
Well, and I also think seeing the body cam video, as valuable as it may be, does not put you in that situation in those seconds that move so quickly.
No amount of analysis, no amount of police training that I have been to will ever allow me to be in the shoes of an officer. The only thing that we can look at is what's in black and white, the policy, the way that these officers are trained to deal with situations like that. That's the standard that they're going to be held to when they go, and this is under investigation.
All right, more to come. Thanks for the insights, Brandy. Appreciate it.
First tonight for the Seattle Police Department, they released video from a body cam of an officer-involved shooting in Eastlake.
Police, stop! Pull the car! Pull the car! Seattle Police! Dude, on the police!
When police arrived to a call about suspicious activity over the weekend, you see a man run to a car. The officer jumped out with his weapon drawn. As he approaches the car, the driver tries to run him over. You see all of this in the body cam video. That's when officers begin shooting at the car. The suspects got away. Police found the car yesterday. They are looking for the suspects, and they urge anyone to come forward with any information. The release of that video proving timely, as now Seattle's North Precinct police officers are about to begin wearing body cameras. The officers can review the video on their cell phone and then tag the data from the incident. Andre Taylor has pushed for more police accountability since officers shot his brother last year. Officers say Che Taylor had been reaching for a gun.
I'd love to have those officers in that close setting. You know, we would love to have seen what happened there.
All North Precinct police officers will be wearing the body cameras by the end of this week.